All right, the bonus round is back here at QuakeCon 2014 in Dallas. I'm Jeff Keighley, hanging out with Adam Susser, Andrew Reiner, and Pete Hines from Bethesda. This week in the bonus round, we're going to talk about a genre which Bethesda has a lot invested in later this year, survival horror. This is a genre that has been around for many, many years. Shinji Mikami, who really sort of helped create it with Resident Evil, is part of Evil Within and building Evil Within. Reiner, though, the survival horror genre, what do you think the appeal of it is? It's one of these things that, it's sort of poked at every couple of years where there are not that many games, and Resident Evil really for many years defined this genre.
Well, you play them to get the crap scared out of you, basically, right. And have that horror experience like you would at, going to a cinema, suspense,
right.
Jump scares, all that stuff. I think we're kind of in an age of rediscovery for survival horror, where Res Evil kind of burned out after, 6 entries and however many side chapters they had. It seemed like it kind of lost its way.
Well, I always found Resident Evil got to a point where it just got frustrating, too. Like, the controls never really kind of quite delivered what you wanted them to, and sort of some of the scare was in sort of how frustrated you were by the game. So and that's the thing is, like, managing, make it sort of easy to play, a pleasure to play, but then, as you said, still have those moments to surprise you.
Yeah, so I think it kind of lost that identity, and I think the indie scene has really kind of helped revitalize it with, things like Slenderman and Amnesia. Games like that are kind of finding new spaces there, and obviously Shinji Mikami created Res Evil, has a new vision for it as well as we move forward here.
Yeah. Now, Adam, obviously this genre has been around. You've covered it over the years.
Yes.
What is your take on survival? Do you like survival horror games?
Yes, I do. Actually, just for in the interest of disclosure, my company Theory Head is working with the Evil Within.
Okay.
And one of the reasons I wanted to do that is because of an affection I have for it. I think the key thing, it's not called horror, it's called survival horror. And it's really predicated on this tension that the player has with the game, that you never feel you're as capable as you want to be able to handle the situations.
Right.
And
if they're done well.
If they're done well. And I think to Andrew's point, that sometimes the artifice of controls or inventory was a way of imposing that sense of frustration.
Of course, I have one bullet left, I'm screwed.
But that's not necessary. There's other ways, just through how the character moves, how fast does he move, how do you design the level? I think one of the classic examples is in Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby, when you see Ruth Gordon on the phone, but she's obscured by an object, and everyone kind of wants to lean their head around just to get that sense.
Right.
That's what a good survival horror game is about, and it really doesn't mean that you have to have heavy and deep inventory management.
No, you're right. Inventory and the lack of bullets, that was always the crutch. That would sort of create tension that would lead to more frustration than
just don't give the player that many bullets. There, you've done it. It's really not that hard.
You're scared. Pete, this is a genre which is sort of new for Bethesda to kind of enter survival horror. Why was this something that you guys, a genre you wanted to get into?
Yeah, it's not something we've done a lot of. We did Call of Cthulhu.
Right. Oh my God.
Many years
ago.
That
was you guys.
What was that? 15, 20?
Which ended up being a very scary, fun title of a different kind.
Right.
The interest here was having a conversation with Shinji Mikami, who says, "I want to do a survival horror game." Like, whether you make those games or not, how do you not have that conversation? You're like, actually, that sounds really awesome.
Yeah.
We tend not, we don't focus on we only do games of this kind of genre. We just we look for really talented people who have good ideas, who know what they're doing and want to do something different. And in this case, it was a combination of, well, he wants to make survival horror, but he wants to go in a direction that's different than where everything else has gone. To Reiner's point, where your Resident Evils and your Deep Spaces have been very good games, but have taken survival horror in a much more action-heavy.
Yeah.
It's not about feeling kind of vulnerable or weak. It's more about, I got a lot of guns and a lot of ammo and a lot of things I'm gonna kill. He wanted to take it back kind of to its roots, where you feel vulnerable, you feel helpless, where running away is an option you should absolutely exercise because you have 1 bullet and 5 guys to deal with, where you can feel cool and empowered by hiding. Like, hiding in a closet to get around a thing actually feels pretty cool.
Right.
I think that was the opportunity we wanted to take advantage of, and why we've enjoyed working on the Evil Within, why we're excited about it.
I think one of the ironies is that action, push in the survival horror genre is because of Mikami's, remarkable success with Resident Evil 4, which was, but at that point, that was such a necessary respite from the deluge of the awkward controls. then
when you finally
creates
play
all
that
these
game,
action
you're like,
games, and now
wow,
he's fixing it.
this is fun to play.
Yeah.
finally, right? And that was something that, in some ways Capcom, I think, regressed a little bit from
Yeah.
that after that. But yeah, that was an incredible game, RE4. And now we're seeing some games that are not survival horror, but I look at something like Alien, which is sort of like a survival game. I mean, the sense of tension in games is something that, you even get into Dark Souls or something where it's like you're frustrated, but it's like, do you think that's something that gamers, they want more of that feeling of sort of just like, it's not frustration, or it's like, exactly.
Yeah,
Want to be challenged.
It's
I mean, you can do that in a game now where you put the difficulty as high as you can, and it's just like, just challenge me.
Yeah, it's going to be an experience that you're going to remember, and you're going to be like, holy crap, that really got me. But I wonder how fun that's going to be, where I don't want to go down that hallway. You know what I mean? And I guess that's part of the draw of the genre.
I think it is.
That, like I said, being scared and making, being brave enough to go there.
I mean, maybe there should be some consideration. Stop calling it survival horror. Just call it survival.
Yeah, survival.
Because Dark Souls definitely falls into that.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice kind of answer to the last generation, which became so gamer score focused. How much can I do? Where a game like Dark Souls is just like,
how do you get through?
I finished. I'm so happy. It's over. And I think that is important because it goes back to just let yourself enjoy the game and being lost in someone else's imagination creation, and not this idea that you have to somehow conquer and do everything and prove something.
There's so many games now where it's like you basically just go around, you clear the entire room, you're like, okay, I'm done, move on. It's like, it's great that feeling of like, wait, maybe I can run away, and that's actually the best strategy is to get away from this, because there's no way I'm actually going to be able to complete this, which is good as an approach to it. So Pete, I mean, this would you say it's survival horror? I mean, how would you describe Evil Pet?
I mean, Adam's right in that the survival part of this is very key. Now, he spent enough time with it. You guys have spent some time. I think in this case, the horror is very applicable.
Yes.
Because you're sticking probes and living graves, and you have things coming out of the ground. Like, this game is a terrifying game.
Yeah.
The survival horror combination for us is, Reiner talked about it a little bit, it is being afraid, feeling vulnerable, and then the sense of pride you get from like overcoming your fear and overcoming your vulnerability, knowing that like you actually had to think your way through it, or like you managed to get through that part of it. Like, it's a sense of accomplishment in a positive way, as opposed to, yay, I'm no longer frustrated because I didn't die for the 111th time. Like, we're not going for that experience if it's incredibly difficult.
The trial and error.
But obviously the difficulty is part of it. Like, if you're gonna feel vulnerable, like, well, then you gotta be punished for your mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think Evil Within is a game where, like, you find an empty house, and you're like, oh, like, there's nobody here to kill me, like, I'm fine. And then if you just sort of casually walk around and explore, then you set off a trap and you die badly, and you're like, I can never let my guard down. And even when it seems like the game is telling me I can let my guard down, I don't trust it, because like something bad is going to happen, or something is going to come out of the window or the floor, or God only knows what. So it is that, like, trying to survive, but then I'm overcoming these horrific things, and it's a game about being inside the mind of a killer, and like all of the horrific things that you have to deal with as part of that.
It has a very elegant sort of tension with the idea of like low inventory, because you have so few things. You want to explore so you can just get one more bullet,
thing.
But then you know the risk that's probably going to entail.
Exactly.
That's where I think survival horror always wanted to be, but once again, we got kind of lost in that artifice of like, okay, let's just do it through all these inventory blocks.
And I think to your point, Jeff, there are games like, I mean, Last of Us hadn't got mentioned, but like from a survival standpoint, like, it's brilliant in the survival aspect of creating tension and that exploration and feeling like you're never safe. You're trying to protect this little girl and looking for those resources that are scarce. Like, I think games like that, while not survival horror, have elements that are great in a survival horror. Last of Us is another example of a game like that isn't survival horror, but the survival aspect of that was really great, where you're trying to find resources and protect this little girl. Or a game like Half-Life 2, where my most memorable part of Half-Life 2 is running away from the chopper, like just trying not to die, not like blowing stuff away, but just the like trying to escape and stay alive is such a great moment of like when you get through it, you feel so proud of like I managed to not die. It's such a simple thing, but it can be empowering. And I think a game like Evil Within is trying to take those moments where just running away, hiding, being clever and escaping, and not trying to fight or kill something can be very powerful. Like, I use my wits to solve a problem and get around it in a way that feels like very personal. Unlike, and it's something you can't get from a movie, because in a movie it's all about jump scares. You're passively participating in something. Here, like, no, I made the decision that I'm going to do this, or I decided to dive under the bed, and that's where you get that empowering sort of sense of pride of figuring out how to get through it.
Well, you really end up, it's funny, like I would say that's more like role-playing than almost anything else you can get in a game. It's like you really become like that character because you have that sublime moment where it's like, I have to get this done. So that's all I care about right now is getting through the next 2 minutes and living. So.
And also now, you know, the technology and the graphics are there that you want to explore a little bit because, you know, it's so rich and you want to see what scares around the corner. Even when I was playing at E3, it's like, oh, let me just go down that hallway because I wonder what's there. There'll be some cool story moment or something.
It's very much like getting lost in someone else's imagination, who's clearly got a far more developed imagination than most people have. and that really is, it's what so many older games, when the technical limitations, like we had to kind of fill in the blanks. Like, you know, Clock Tower's kind of hinting at that type of horror, but you know, it's only with a handful of pixels. Now you really see the stuff sort of fleshed out, and it can be a very enthralling and thrilling experience.
Very cool. All right, well, Evil Within's coming out later this fall. We look forward to checking it out, Pete. When we come back on the bonus round, we're going to talk about the future of Bethesda. Stick around for that.